Hi and welcome. If you saw my last video, you know I'm doing a family of 4. This is number 2 in my family of 4. This is the 4. And I'm starting the one in the bottom right. And I start with a 5.5 by 5.5 piece of mixed media paper. And I've sprayed the back of that stencil with a Distress spray stain, Picked Rasberry, and I lift it to get the negative, but then I touch down in a few places to add a little bit more of the pattern of the stencil. I let that dry, and now I'm adding another stencil, and I'm going to be spraying that with another Distress spray stain called Wild Honey. And here I'm actually using the stencil portion of the stain, or the stencil, and I'll use what I sprayed on it for another piece of that grouping. But here I'm taking my brush and I'm just kind of softening up some of the stencil, kind of spreading it around a little bit, keeping some of the pattern, but taking some of the pattern and just loosening it up around some of the edges into some of the white area while still keeping some of the white area. Now I'm going to take a Distress ink, and with my blending brush, this is Broken China, and I'm using that third stencil. All these stencils are ones I've made and cut, so you can use any stencil you want, but I'm taking this third stencil, which is common to all the pieces I'm making in this family. Each of the pieces has this stencil in it, and I'm adding some of this Broken China just to bring in a little bit of another color. So it's not a lot, but it just brings in a little bit more. And now I'm adding some Collage. And these are either washi, or not washi. So the Collage pieces I'm using are either jelly print scraps or stamped book paper, or I think in the case of the orangey colored one, it's I picked up excess ink from the Distress ink spray stain. I think that's probably Wild Honey, and without letting it go to waste. And that was covering that stamp up too much, so I just kind of rip it a little lower there so I can see it peeking out the top. I trim it to size. Then I grab a Posca paint pen. This is aqua green, and I'm just making some marks on the page, bringing in a little more of the blue. I don't want to overpower with blue, but I just want a little bit. And I'm just adding some dots, kind of following a curve. I have a stamp here. It's from Tim Holtz, and I stamp it with some StazOn black ink and adding some black dots. And I immediately take a baby wipe and try to wipe some of it off so that they look a little more distressed. StazOn's hard to do that though. So I take a fine tip Posca paint pen. It's in the same color, aqua green, and I just do little swirlies on top of those black dots. So I'm not crazy about that little corner on the bottom. So I have this piece of, it's a jelly printed deli paper, and I thought I'd just kind of slide it over some of that area on the bottom there. And I'll cut it to size. And I do the same thing in a little area up there. Just going to add a little portion of that blue deli paper. And I cut it to size. Okay, the collage is done. Collage portion is done. And I'm going to give it a seal. And I could do that with my clear gesso, but I just had my matte varnish right here, so I'm just using that. And then lastly, I add this little piece of stamped book paper and trim it to size. For my focal image, just like I did on the first video on this family, I'm drawing my focal image on a piece of black cardstock. This one's going to be a little larger, the leaves are going to be shaped a little different, but because they're drawn on black cardstock, and I'm also using a metallic pink Gelly Roll pen, and I'm going to draw the vein lines just like on the last one, so they're going to look similar. You're going to know that they're of the same family. And once I have that all drawn, I cut it out. And I won't make you sit through all that. I'll stop and... Okay, so that is my finished focal image, and I'm going to use a Tombow glue stick and glue it down to my page. And I'm using my StazOn black to just kind of scuff the edges black. Kind of gives it a finished look. Picking out my sentiment, and I choose Fall in Love with Moments. Whenever I hear a phrase that I like, I jot it down, and then I just print out a whole bunch on my Cricut on black cardstock with a white Gelly Roll pen, and that way I can just pull from those when I need one. Sometimes there's ones that's like, okay, this one's speaking this to me, but usually I'll just look through my stash. And I'm gluing that down with a liquid glue. And then giving it a final seal. It's a protective coat of the matte varnish. And I don't have to do the whole thing, just mainly the portions that I've just added, like the focal image and the sentiment. And then I squeegee off any excess with that catalyst. And it's done. So this is number 2 of 4. I hope you have enjoyed seeing them so far, and you continue to watch the next 2. Please subscribe and give me a thumbs up, and you have a great day.